Hello folks and welcome to the show. My name is Asa Morris and this is Weird Week. Thank you so much for joining us, hopefully again, but if this is your first time, stick around. There's something for everyone always. Someone will always find a reason to get mad at me. Welcome. As you may have noticed, there was no episode last week due to a pretty fascinating road trip I took out to Marfa, Texas to check out those Marfa lights. Finally, it was something. I won't get too into detail, but I have decided to take more road trips to paranormal places, not ghost haunted locations. We all know how I feel about those shows. And film them. The first episode of what I'm going to be calling Strange Trip is just about done being edited now, and of course has to do with Marfa. That episode should be up in about 2 days. Hopefully. It's a lot of footage. If anybody wants to fund that, History Channel, email me, LowStrangeness, gmail.com. Seriously. Make sure you hit up the link tree in the show description for all of our links. That's socials, the Patreon, merch, all of that stuff. Oh, and the podcast, that one, which is wrapping up its first season next week. This week's episode is a bit of a weird one, as opposed to all the normal ones, where I started looking into one thing to kind of make fun of it, and then I was led down a strange rabbit hole of logic. So that one's definitely worth the listen. Anyway, enough with all the hubbub. Folks, it's good to be back, and I'll tell you, on Sunday, the Catholic News Agency posted an article titled, "Society of Catholic Scientists Prepares for Conference on Non-Human Intelligence." According to the article, the Society of Catholic Scientists, SCS, will hold its 2021 conference in Washington, D.C. on the subject of non-human intelligence. The conference is titled Extraterrestrials, AI, and Minds Beyond the Human, and will take place at the Hilton Hotel from June 4th through 6th. The event will also be live streamed. Personally, I think this is a fantastic idea. And while my opinions of the Catholic Church and organized religion in general may not always be optimistic, I applaud religious folk for their open-mindedness in this situation and their ability to adapt to new and changing, potentially life-changing information. Good on you. On Monday, this video popped up out of South Korea, showing a strange little object seemingly zipping by a camera at incredibly high speeds. Now, the real issue is that it doesn't seem to pass behind anything, so scale is clearly subject to scrutinization. However, it does look like this drone footage that came out of Utah recently, which shows an object banking and flying at the camera. This has led a number of people to wonder how many of these small and fast objects are around us all the time that we just don't see. However, this has also led a number of people to conclude that these are insects, and without scale context, there is no reason to believe that they are anything more extraordinary than that. Also on Monday, this video popped up, seemingly showing a little dinosaur running down someone's driveway. Why not? Welcome to Florida. Lastly, on this very entertaining Monday, this article from the Washington Examiner raised a few eyebrows. Scientists successfully create human-monkey hybrid. That's right, California researchers created these Monroean achievements recently with 3 embryos made up of both monkey and human cells that lived up to 19 days. This has led to a number of ethical concerns, as it rightly should. I'm going to say Monroean again. Monroean. The island of Dr. Moreau. On Tuesday, a pretty bizarre photo showed up, seemingly showing a flock of sheep forming concentric circles. The original photo was taken in East Sussex by a cyclist, Christopher Hogg. Hogg also noted that while the sheep were usually noisy, that day they seemed quite still and calm. To quote him, "As if they were in a trance, it was very disturbing." I'll be honest with you. On Wednesday, the folks over at Vice ran an article titled, "Commercial Airline Pilots Keep Reporting UFOs Over Canada." According to the article, Vice World News has uncovered dozens of recent UFO reports from Air Canada, WestJet, Porter, and other airlines in a government aviation incident database. The objects described vary wildly, though all resemble crafts witnessed by civilians elsewhere, from spheres to donut shapes to points of unidentifiable light, etc. One report also states multiple aircraft reported a very large object with a small white light in the middle, surrounded by a halo that appeared to descend from above at 41,000 feet. Former Royal Canadian Air Force pilot John Jack Williams told Vice World that pilots are probably not reporting about 90% of the things they're seeing because they know it could have lengthy career implications. Which I think is probably accurate. Even now, when people ask what I do, I rarely bring up this show or LowStrangeness at all, because these sorts of things tend to immediately discredit you to a large number of people, even today. I guess the trick would be to not use words like ultra-terrestrial or interdimensional Sasquatch at Thanksgiving, but if Mount Shasta's off the table, why talk about any of it at all? On Thursday, NASA's Perseverance rover converted carbon dioxide into oxygen on Mars for the first time. According to an article on CBSNews.com, a toaster-sized instrument called MOXIE, short for Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, made the feat possible. Since Mars's atmosphere is 96% carbon dioxide, MOXIE works by separating oxygen atoms from carbon dioxide molecules. MOXIE produced about 5 grams of oxygen, the equivalent of 10 minutes worth of breathable oxygen for an astronaut. MOXIE can generate up to 10 grams of oxygen per hour and is expected to extract oxygen at least 9 more times over the course of a Martian year, nearly 2 years on Earth. Also on Thursday, Mystery Wire posted a 3-part video series featuring Elizondo once again. The entire interview runs about an hour and is worth the watch, though nothing new really comes out of it. It's mostly a Q&A. However, what I did notice was that instead of the usual vaguely cheeky and hint guy we normally see, Elizondo seemed far more reserved and kept strongly reinforcing the idea that the crafts in discussion may be terrestrial and from other countries. He never stated it outright, but the general tone of the videos heavily implies it, whether by design or not. He also refused to answer a question about whether or not he had any involvement in the upcoming disclosure report. I'm sure the guy's under a lot of pressure and people have off days, but I think it's worth noting. On Friday, SpaceX had another interesting close call. According to an article over on Futurism.com, SpaceX's spacecraft just had a near collision with an unidentified object. Astronauts were instructed to put on their spacesuits. While en route to the ISS, the Crew Dragon crew were notified of a potential collision with an unidentified object. The NASA SpaceX team was informed of the possible conjunction by U.S. Space Command, NASA spokesperson Kelly Humphreys told Futurism. The object being tracked is classified as unknown. There was no time, Humphreys said, to perform an avoidance maneuver to get out of the way of the object. Instead, SpaceX advised that the astronauts put on their pressurized suits in case of a collision. There was no collision, as Humphreys said. The object's closest approach was 45 kilometers from the spacecraft. Pay attention to the language there. The closest approach was 45 kilometers to the spacecraft. Closest, implying multiple approaches. And finally on Saturday, a very strange tweet. The seemingly official English language China National Space Administration Twitter posted With great ceremony, we announce the confirmation of intelligent life. This immediately led to people going fucking bananas. Many, however, assumed this was a fake account, but it turns out it is the genuine account of the agency, though it has been abandoned until this point, for several years. Some argued that this was China attempting to beat us to the disclosure announcement. However, the more plausible theory, in my opinion, is this was just an abandoned account that got hacked into and someone is having a little fun. And that's our week. If you see something throughout the week that you'd like me to cover, or if you want to fund my road trip show, hit us up, any of the socials or lowstrangeness@gmail.com. Like every week, I'm not saying that these things are true or valid, although this was a pretty news-based week, but these are things that I found interesting that I thought you would find interesting as well. When there's clear fakes, I call them fakes. I enjoy doing it, but that's not necessarily the point of this show. If you would like more in-depth discussion on various topics, here comes the cool gag. Make sure you check out the podcast LowStrangeness. It's available everywhere that podcasts are available. They're short, bite-sized, 20-minute episodes. Maybe like 3 bites sized. New episodes every Monday. This week we are talking about NASA versus the moon. Next week will be our season finale, so make sure you're subscribed before next week, where we are going to discuss Contact 101, what to do in a contact situation. Hopefully you are not in a contact situation before next week, because otherwise you're screwed. I'm not giving anything away. Subscribe to the show. Once again, I am Asa Morris, and this has been Weird Week. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Please do the big 5. I shouldn't have to say them, but I will, and I'm gonna put them on the screen right now. Like, comment, subscribe, bell, share. I don't think that's gonna line up in post, but we'll find out. Take care of yourselves and the people around you, and I'll see you next week. What I'm sure I'll say,